it's looking like Alyssa Thomas and the Phoenix Mercury are going to be fined because she just said nah. She just said nah. And I'm sorry, like, you can't have all the smoke. You cannot be there chirping with fans the whole game. You cannot be allegedly telling fans DeWanna chose to join a real basketball team. You cannot be saying stuff like that and then hide.
Alyssa Thomas believes she could ignore her required media appearances, yell at Indiana Fever supporters, and leave the court after losing without facing any repercussions. False. She and the Phoenix Mercury will soon face fines from the WNBA for violating league regulations. Furthermore, there is no more ideal karma.
And it looked like Alyssa Thomas will be getting fined for doing this in Indianapolis. Guys, for this one here.
Do you believe that Alyssa Thomas should have been penalized for failing to appear in the media after losing due to a fever? Alyssa Thomas just discovered the hard way that decisions have repercussions. In all honesty, it's time. Despite a season-best effort from forward Alyssa Thomas, the Phoenix Mercury lost 17,101 to the Indiana Fever in a fiercely contested matchup at Gainbridge Fieldhouse on Wednesday night. However, her outstanding performance is not the subject of this tale. Everyone is talking about what transpired after the game.
So Alyssa Thomas had all the smoke for the Fever fans. That's all I'm gonna say. Like, it wasn't just like just normal smoke. It wasn't just normal beef. It was what people from the country would call Dublin. She had the big smoke. Like, she absolutely had all the beef for. She, let the fans hear it, all of this stuff. Satu there, telling the fans to keep up the booze. And what did they do? They lost.
Let's examine Thomas's specific situation and the reasons behind the league's current sentence. Thomas led all scorers and recorded her first 30-point performance of the year with 32 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists in 34 minutes of play. She also made 63.6% of her field goals. Even though she had a fantastic game, her team still lost. That must be painful. This is where things start to become very interesting, though. However, what is currently in the news are Thomas' post-game activities. Following the final horn, fans observed that Thomas was missing from her required media availability as per the WNBA's media access policy for the 2025 season. She simply vanished, poof, lost, as if she had never been there.
Understand how a player in a professional sport can ever think that someone who left a team and left the team in a lurch, like DeWanna Bonner left the Indiana Fever in a time of adversity when multiple players were injured. They had to sign hardship contracts, and instead of saying, hey, this isn't working out, after 9 games, mind you, did not give it much time. 9 games was it. That's all she played with the Indiana Fever. Asking for a trade and not traveling with your team after asking for something to be worked out. And then, not only that, pretty much forcing your way onto the Phoenix Mercury, which is a title contending team and a team with her life partner on it. It just sounds very like I can get what I want when I want, and it doesn't matter what happens. And yes, I can see a fan base being quite upset with this. I mean, LeBron, when he left Cleveland, people were burning his jerseys. People were booing him every time he was back in Cleveland.
Fans have responded to this cowardly conduct with utter brutality and with good reason. Thursday saw the emergence of a Reddit thread criticizing the absence and predicting that the Mercury and Thomas would be fined for violating league regulations. When it comes to pointing out unethical behavior, the internet is merciless, and Thomas simply provided them with all the weapons they required.
That not the she caused, not the necessarily DeWanna caused for herself. Like, the booing and everything, DeWanna brought that in herself. Let's be completely real. Even Nate Tibbetts was just like, well, yeah, this is sports. Like, we'll talk about that a little bit later, but like, their coach was even like, well, yeah, this is sports. This is sports. And like, Alyssa Thomas not showing up. It's the most Alyssa Thomas thing ever, isn't it? Talk a big game, and then when anyone does anything negative towards you, let's just dodge. It is the most Alyssa Thomas thing ever. Like, we've seen it with somebody.
As well as Sophie, her first team is that one. Let's now discuss the background that adds to how pitiful this entire situation is. Dana Bonner returned to Indianapolis for this game after she had stopped playing earlier in the season. Additionally, it was Thomas's fiancée Dana Bonner's first game since. Indiana waved her off on June 25th because her lover was being jeered by the supporters she left. Thomas was already emotionally immersed in this game.
Foul on Sophie Cunningham. That is her first team second. Coming in for Phoenix number 14, Bonner.
When Bonner arrived at Wednesday's game, the team's supporters jeered her. Additionally, Thomas engaged in derogatory remarks with Indiana supporters. Let me be clear about this. Despite having her best individual performance, Thomas spent the game yelling trash to fans, saw her team lose, and then chose to flee rather than deal with the media like a pro. Her fleeing act is made even more cowardly by the visual proof of Thomas interacting with supporters during the game. Alyssa Thomas and a spectator got into a violent argument with just under 2 minutes remaining in the first quarter, and the Mercury comfortably leading 25-13. She was flawless. When her team was winning, she felt at ease engaging in verbal altercations. However, she abruptly vanished when it came time to answer inquiries about the loss. Thomas determined she was above the WNBA's very explicit media availability guidelines. The WNBA's 2025 season media access rules states that no later than 10 minutes following the final buzzer, each head coach and 2 players, the team's top scorer, and a vital contributor must be accessible to in-person and Zoom media. This is a necessity, not a recommendation. Thomas did not come out of the locker room on Wednesday, while Copper and Mercury coach Nate Tibbetts did attend the clubhouse press conference. Thus, her carriage arrived. Her teammate arrived. However, there is no sign of the team's top scorer or alleged veteran leader. That's not being a leader. Cowardice is what that is. The league also takes these infractions seriously. There is minimal leeway in league procedure, and teams run the risk of facing increasing sanctions for repeated violations. The WNBA has made it plain that players who believe they can avoid media availability will be penalized financially. The fans' reactions have made the entire thing much more embarrassing. Many responded to the news and voiced their opinions about XR. You telling me that after playing an exceptionally strong game and yelling at the fans, you didn't have enough respect for the league and the game to speak to the media? The fans. She is being completely ridiculed for her lack of professionalism?
All right, first of all, if you know or follow sports in like the slightest, you don't even have to be a fanatic to understand boos come with the territory. I've never seen a season without boos. Every time I go to a New York Liberty game and the Indiana Fever play, Sophie Cunningham just steps on the court or gets announced or anything, it's met with boos from the crowd. For whatever reason, and I'm not saying I agree with it, but it's never something that I thought to write about. It's never something that I thought to post to social media. It's not something that I ever thought to make a video about because I know fans.
The fan response encapsulates the absurdity of the entire circumstance. Due to the fact that her girlfriend was jeered for leaving, Alyssa Thomas is criticized by WNBA fans for avoiding the media following Dana Bonner's stern welcome. This boils down to precisely that. The fact that her lover received the reception she deserved for leaving a team was too much for Thomas to bear. She so made the decision to act out and neglect her work commitments. This style of behavior, nor is this limited to a single instance? Thomas has a history of making contentious remarks and arguing with fans. Do you recall her remarks regarding Indiana Fever supporters from last year's playoffs? This moment of unprofessional behavior has been brewing for some time. The hypocrisy off given her prior remarks regarding player unity and professionalism, Thomas' actions became even more blatant. As players, I believe we stick together as a league, Thomas stated. We trust Angel Reese when she says she heard it. I think she's real. The fans have told me a lot of things. It's about basketball, in my opinion, and I believe that people have pushed it too far. She talks about the league sticking together, yet when things don't work out for her, she breaks her professional commitments. There is a clear difference Between Thomas's actions and the ways in which other athletes deal with hardship, Caitlin Clark responds professionally while being fouled hard or confronted by hostile audiences while still fulfilling her media responsibilities. They still turn up and take questions even when other elite players have poor performances or difficult defeats. Thomas determined that she was unique and exempt from the same regulations as the rest of the group. The fact that Thomas really performed well in this game just serves to highlight how pitiful this is. On 63.3% shooting, Thomas recorded game highs of 32 points, 15 rebounds, and 7 assists. Despite the defeat, she ought to have been pleased with her own performance and made advantage of the media to emphasize how well she performed. Rather, she made a horrible choice because she let her feelings to rule her. The social media fan response has been ruthless, and Thomas is deserving of everything the criticism she is receiving. Supporters are highlighting the hypocrisy of disparaging others throughout the game and then avoiding responsibility when the time comes. A seasoned leader wouldn't act in that way. That is the conduct of someone who is able to give but not receive. Additionally, the Phoenix Mercury organization should be criticized for permitting this to occur. Regardless of the result of the game, they ought to have ensured that their star player was aware of her responsibilities and ready to fulfill them. There is a lack of organizational responsibility evident in Thomas' capacity to simply vanish, without the team ensuring she met her media needs. The WNBA's double standard is further highlighted by this instance. Had Caitlin Clark not shown up for the required media appearance, the league would have struck her like a ton of bricks. However, there's a belief that she get away with it because Thomas meets several characteristics and has previously criticized fan conduct. I hope the league corrects that and takes this infraction seriously. This situation's educational component is also crucial. It is imperative that young athletes and league viewers understand that professional conduct is expected at all times. It conveys the incorrect message about what is appropriate in professional sports when seasoned athletes like Thomas neglect their responsibilities. It is the league's duty to uphold its regulations consistently. Another complexity is added by the schedule of the Mercury's upcoming games of intrigue to this story. All eyes will concentrate on how Thomas is disciplined by the WNBA and, more interestingly, if she respects the league-mandated media window the next time the buzzer sounds. Will Thomas grow from this humiliating experience? Or will she still believe she is above the law? This establishes a crucial precedent for the league as a whole. What stops other players from doing the same if professional athletes can avoid media availability because they're angry about fan reactions or game results? The WNBA must make it abundantly evident that everyone is subject to these regulations, irrespective of their background or personal concerns. The most annoying thing about this circumstance is that Thomas had every chance to take advantage of the media that is available to her. She had the opportunity to commend her teammates, discuss the team's perseverance in the face of defeat, or even professionally handle the fan situation. She decided to flee instead, allowing the story to focus on her lack of professionalism, rather than her outstanding performance. There may also be a major effect on team dynamics. A locker room with championship hopes could be distracted by a fine or worse. Although Thomas' teammates arrived there and performed their duties, they now had to cope with the consequences of her choice to neglect her duties. That is unfair to them and not what a seasoned leader should do. It will be interesting to see how the league handles this situation. They have been striving to make the WNBA a genuinely professional league, which entails making players answerable for their actions on and off the field. Thomas provided them with the ideal chance to show that everyone is expected to act professionally. In this case, the analogy to other professional sports leagues is equally pertinent. Ignoring mandated media availability in the NBA, NFL, or MLB carries instant penalties. No arguments, justifications, or preferential treatment are present. You pay the price when you violate the rules. The WNBA must demonstrate that they conduct themselves with the same degree of professionalism. The WNBA is still expanding its fan base, so the fan viewpoint on this is especially significant. The legitimacy of the league is harmed. When fans watch athletes acting impolitely and appearing to get away with it, Thomas' actions give the impression that WNBA players believe their standards are higher than those of other professional sports. The irony of the whole circumstance is that Thomas had something constructive to discuss. Her performance was exceptional, and she had the opportunity to demonstrate her professionalism and develop her personal brand by utilizing the media. Rather, she made herself the antagonist of the narrative and caused needless stress for her group. In the long run, Thomas's reputation and relationship with the media may be negatively impacted by this episode. Reporters are aware of when athletes fail to show up for their responsibilities, and it might have an impact on her future coverage. That was a self-inflicted injury that was simply preventable. This circumstance is made much more distressing by the Mercury's hopes of winning a title. They have a real chance to win a championship this year, but they now have to cope with distractions brought on by their best players' bad choices. Teams that successfully manage adversity win championships, and Thomas just demonstrated that she might not meet that requirement. This story's instant karma element is ideal. Thomas tried to evade responsibility by avoiding media availability after spending the game disparaging fans and watching her team lose in spite of her best efforts. She is currently facing fines and public criticism, demonstrating that acting in an unethical manner has consequences. All things considered, Alyssa Thomas made a horrible choice that hurts her, her club, and the league overall. Media accessibility is one of the responsibilities that professional players have beyond simply competing in sports. Thomas made the decision that she was above the rules and she will soon pay for it. The karma is perfectly appropriate. Alyssa Thomas discovered that when things don't go their way, elite athletes can't simply quit. After spewing trash, she skipped the required media availability, which is the height of unprofessional behavior, and she will soon face a fine that's well worth it. How do you feel about her cowardly action? Leave your comments below.